Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the international best-selling book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. Today on the show, we have Chang. Caroline is the producer and host of Awake to Oneness Radio. She's the founder of the Kyle Foundation, which stands for Keep Your Light Expanding. She's co-founder of Universal Oneness Alliance and affiliate leader for Helping Parents Heal in the Poconos. She was inspired to launch Awake to Oneness Radio 6 months after the transition of her only son, Kyle. Today, she'll share her story of some of the things that happened to have her be on this special path. Caroline is certainly someone who inspires people globally to awaken to the truth, leading to peace in their lives with the mission of peace on earth. She's a very special woman. Her website is awake2onenessradio.org. That's the number 2, awake2onessradio.org. Caroline Chang, my friend, welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you. I am so happy to be here. I was saying welcome to you because I'm so used to being the host.
I know.
And so I'm so used to saying welcome. And I was like, wait a second, I'm the guest.
It is.
Thank you.
You are.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I am so happy to speak with you, to share with you and your listeners. I was so thankful and so grateful to get to meet you in person in September at the Afterlife Symposium. I am just thrilled.
I feel the same way about you. And it was like connecting with a friend that I hadn't seen in years, even though we'd never laid eyes on each other face to face. You are filled with joy, and I know your life has not been an easy one, but the fact that you've taken everything you've learned and you really are sharing and honestly impacting people globally. And I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so proud of you. You're doing wonderful work. And it's just, I'm just really honored to be a guest and share my journey with your listeners.
Fantastic. And then for our listener, just know that as soon as we hang up from this, Caroline's going to interview me. So we are having a fun day together, interviewing each other on what we love the most. But this show, Caroline, is about you. So if you wouldn't mind telling us your story, just a little bit about you, where you are in the world right now, and what brought you to this special path that you're on.
Okay, well, if you and your listeners don't mind, I'll take you kind of back to the beginning, but I'll make it brief.
Do the best you can. This is your time, so don't rush too much.
Okay. All right. Well, basically, I was raised in a home that was not religious, but I was sent to Catholic school. I was sent to Catholic school to get a better education. And I know as a very young child, what I was being taught in Catholicism and in religion class every day, because in Catholic school, you take religion every day, like you take math and science.
Right.
Yeah. And it just, what the nuns and the priests were teaching us never resonated with me. Because I was like, God, okay, I'm not understanding why all of the things like that. The one question I had as a child that I really wanted to ask that I couldn't ask because my parents, my father especially, said children are to be seen and not heard. So the one question I wanted to ask is, as a 4-year-old, why did God put that tree there? If we're not supposed to eat from it, why did he even put it there? I mean, at 4 years old, I'm logical enough to think, okay, I don't want them to eat it, so I won't put it in front of them. To me, that's like putting a piece of chocolate.
You're talking about the forbidden fruit, Adam and Eve. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why did he put the tree there? That's funny.
Why did he put the tree there? I'm like, it just doesn't make logical sense to me to put a tree to me, that's like putting a slice of cake, chocolate cake, in front of a 2-year-old that is allergic to chocolate. And you know that the child's allergic to chocolate. You know that the child will get sick, but the child loves chocolate, and you're going to put a slice of cake in front of a 2-year-old and say, you better not touch it. That's what it, so there was like so much that, I was being taught in Catholicism and in Catholic school
Right.
that just didn't resonate with me. And I didn't know the word resonate at 4.
It just didn't make sense, though.
Yes,
And then you were to be
yes.
seen but not heard. So you kept
And then
quiet, right?
yes, I was supposed to be seen and not heard. So I had no voice. And so as I was growing up, I knew when I got to be old enough, I would research and I would search for the truth. So I started at a very young age seeking truth because what I was being taught just didn't resonate. So I started at a young age, in my teens, looking and reading metaphysical books. The first book I was given that really kind of put me on the spiritual path was Think and Grow Rich, which kind of basically, I was given that at 15, and I read that at 15, and that basically made me think, wow, we have something, our thoughts have something to do with our life.
Right.
We actually create our life with our thoughts. That was a very interesting concept. I still didn't understand it completely, but I thought it was very interesting. And then I ran away from home at a young age. I finished high school, got my degree, ran away from home, went to college, and raised a family at a young age. And then so life got in the way of me seeking truth. I was a young mother raising 2 children, so I was doing the day-to-day stuff. But then in the 80s, after my husband and I separated, again, I started looking into metaphysical things. And everything I was learning metaphysically resonated with me, but there was a missing piece. So I'll bring you to that missing piece. The missing piece for me was when I watched the movie What the Bleep in 2007. And I really, from quantum physics, What the Bleep is a documentary with many scientists
Yes.
interviewing about quantum physics. And basically, the statement that truly woke me up was from Lynn McTaggart when she said, the biggest problem in the world today is the illusion of separateness.
Yes.
And when she said just that sentence, something woke up inside of me. It was an internal experience, not like from my head, but from my heart. And I'm like, I get it. We're all one. We're all connected. There is no separation. This separation is an illusion. And that is what science in quantum physics and modern science is teaching, that everything is energy, and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. Not just people and plants and animals, the things we think have life, but even the desk that I'm sitting in front of, or the chair I'm sitting on. If you put anything under a high-powered microscope, what do you see? You see these tiny particles we call atoms and molecules. You see them moving. So that movement means it has life, and it's energy, and it's moving. And those molecules are not even touching each other. The other thing I remember from childhood very strongly is in 7th grade, when we were studying molecules and atoms, my science teacher said, nothing is truly solid. And when he said that, again, that was another experience. That was another, as Oprah would say, aha moment.
Yes.
Yes. He said, nothing is truly solid. Now, something inside of me said, yeah, that is true. So if nothing is solid, then it is actually still spirit, but denser. So everything is still spirit, and everything comes from spirit. And what we perceive with our limited human perception, what we perceive as solid is still spirit, but denser. Because when you put it under a high-powered magnifying glass, you see that it's a field of moving particles, not solid,
Caroline, can I add something?
Sure.
First of all, I've seen that movie lots of times. It's What the Bleep Do We Know? And the
Yes.
bleep is for our listener now, it's all those signs instead of using a curse word. What the bleep do we
Right.
know? But something I found really interesting is if we take one of those atoms and if we were to put a little camera inside one of those atoms, it couldn't
Mm-hmm.
film anything. All that's in there is this vibrating strings of energy that cannot be captured. They're invisible.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
everything we see and hear and can touch right now, not only are these atoms bouncing around that can never touch each other, but inside an atom is all invisible. So it really
Yes.
opened me up to just because we see it doesn't necessarily mean it's real. And then the opposite is even the things we cannot see can be real. Can't see the wireless
Exactly.
internet, that's connecting us now. Can't see television
Mm-hmm.
waves. They're real. Can't see sound. It's
Yes.
real. Can't
Yes.
see
Yes.
heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And that's real,
Yes.
So
Yes.
I,
And yes.
yes, it's good,
Mm-hmm.
good, good, good.
Yes, yes, like we can't see our loved ones that are on the other side, but they
They're
are
real.
still here. They're
Yes.
real and they're still here. And they see us and they want us to know that they are real and they're still here with us. So What the Bleep in 2007 is what really woke me up to oneness. And it's just that everything is one thing. God, for me, the definition of God for me is all that is. There is nothing exists outside of God. It's
Mm,
all God, and it's all God experiencing life through us. God wants to experience everything, and He does. He or she, we use these terms he and she, but God is
God is
everything.
God.
And so
Yes.
God is God. And we are a part of God and can never be separated from God, making we are a part of each other and can never be separated from each other. And then I also understood the holographic aspects of God, universe, all that is. Meaning, and my favorite quote is Rumi's quote, "You're not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop." Meaning, each
Ooh,
of us, we are all of God in a drop. So
amazing.
you have millions and billions of trillions of cells in your body. And someone can take a microscopic cell from your body and clone you because in that microscopic cell is all of you.
Pretty
You get
incredible.
me? Yeah. So when I got that, I was like, okay, we are all mini tiny gods, but not gods with the S plural, but God, and it's God in His entirety. And we are creating our reality. So that goes back to the power of positive thinking. Back in the early days, it was called the power of positive thinking. Now,
Uh-huh.
today, it's called the law of attraction. But it's basically saying our thoughts are creating our reality.
Right.
We create it. And then I was studying. Okay, now we'll share. We'll go to my journey with Kyle.
Yes.
So Kyle is my only son, my youngest. I only have two children. Kyle was my youngest. And Kyle was born with a hole in his heart.
Okay.
Now, when he was born, the doctor said, it's very common, nothing to worry about. It'll close in a year. Okay, when I remember his year checkup and it hadn't closed. And the doctor's like, oh, no worry, it'll close by the time he's 2. Okay, so I'm the type of parent. I always took my children for their annual checkup when they were young, and they had all their shots. Now, as a mother, I probably wouldn't do the shots. I'm very holistic. But this back in the 80s, I followed that, and
Yes.
Kyle was extremely active. I mean, Kyle was running. I mean, couldn't sit still for 5 seconds. He just very, very active. So after his baby shots and well checkup till the time he got into school, he never got sick. So we didn't find out we didn't find out until he was an adult that hole never did close. So at the time he was 20, he played high school football. He played football in high school. This is how active he was. Never sick, barely ever got a cold. But when he was 26 years old, he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. And what happened was he probably just from a common cold, his heart, because the hole didn't close completely. I mean, I think it closed to where it wasn't detected,
right,
because he did have checkups for football and it wasn't detected. And physical, he had a physical for football and they didn't detect the hole. But at some point, the doctors are saying they don't know how he got congestive heart failure at 26. But in my again, this is resonating from my heart and my soul, that hole never completely closed.
right.
And a tiny infection got into his heart and weakened his heart. So his heart was very weak when it was first diagnosed, and he was still like not accepting it. He's 26 years old. He's living on his own with
Right.
his friends.
Sure.
He's working. He was a security guard. He loved doing security work. I even asked him when he first was diagnosed, "Do you want to move back home?" He's like, "No, I'm fine." He really wanted to ignore it, the whole diagnosis.
Right.
He didn't want to change his lifestyle, eat healthier, exercise. He didn't want to do any of that at 26. So it got when he was 20, actually the day before his 27th birthday, he got very ill with pneumonia and had to be actually medevaced to a hospital in Philadelphia. I live in Northeast PA, and Philadelphia is about 2 hours away, so they had to medevac him. And he was on life support. He had pneumonia and on life support for 5 weeks. And doctors told me, they took me out of the room and asked me, can we take him off life support? We don't think he's going to make it.
Wow.
Now, this was in December of 2011.
Okay.
December 7th was the date. I remember the date. And I said no. I totally refused to have him taken off life support. But in my mind, I knew, okay, I was spiritually awake. I knew we were eternal souls. I knew I was creating this. Nobody was I wasn't blaming anybody for what was happening. But I said in my mind, not to the doctors or anything, but in my mind, I'm checking out. I'm leaving. So I went upstairs. I don't recall if I even went back into his room after that conversation. I went upstairs a couple of floors to a quiet little waiting room where I would go every now and then and read. And I had the only thing I could get was over-the-counter sleeping pills. I had a bottle of over-the-counter sleeping pills, and I took that with a bottle of water, and I wrote a suicide note, and I said, I'm not going to bury my son. My son is going to bury me.
Oh, wow, Caroline. Wow.
Yeah. I was like, no. I was like, I'm not doing this. And so I was completely unconscious for about 2.5 days. I remember vaguely for a second waking up in the, this is funny. I was in the ER. I remember being in the ER, and there was a doctor in the ER shaking me to wake me up. And he was holding the bottle of pills, the pill bottle in front of me. And he was saying, how many of these did you take? How many of these did you take? And I'm thinking in my mind, first of all, I'm thinking, I'm not supposed to still be here.
Right.
And I'm thinking, that's a silly question. So with full consciousness of what I was saying, because I thought it was a silly question, I said 1. And then I was out again. That part I remember. And then I don't remember anything else until I was in the intensive care. And Kyle's intern doctor, he was a young, tall guy. Dr. Ty was about 6'5". He's a tall guy, standing at the foot of my bed. And he says, Kyle needs you. And so that told me in my mind, well, Kyle's still here. Kyle's not gone. But then I was still thinking, I don't want to be here, and I'm still here. So, but basically, so a week after, so I'm in the hospital, and they have me on the psych ward on 24-hour suicide watch.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, an aide had to be in the room with me 24 hours. And even if it was a male aide, and if I was taking a shower or going to the bathroom, I had to leave the door open. So they had me on 24-hour suicide watch. And they would let me, now they would allow me to go visit Kyle. He's still on life support because I never gave my permission to take him off.
Okay.
So he's still on life support. They would let me go down and visit him for about an hour a day, supervised visit. And I remember the last supervised visit I had with him, I got real close to his ear and I whispered in his ear. I said, Kyle, get better so we can both go home. And that night, he pulled himself off life support.
Oh.
He pulled out the feeding tube. He pulled out the ventilator. He pulled everything out himself, and his vital signs were perfect. The doctors said it was like he was never even sick. It was a true medical miracle. He pulled himself off life support. I got better. I actually never even inquired as to my medical condition, as to what happened to me physically by taking all those pills. I never even inquired into my medical records. But he got better, I got better, and we both went home December 30th, 2011, the day before New Year's Eve. And we rang in the new year together.
Caroline,
And I
don't mean to interrupt you, but I know who some of the listeners are right now. And
yes.
For parents who have had a child transition, they know that feeling of wanting to check out. And grief happens not just when somebody dies physically, but it can happen when somebody's diagnosed. I can't even imagine as a mother being asked the question, do you want your son taking off life support? For those of us who have had loss, but maybe not that relationship, I can only give you so much compassion because you're a pretty regular minded, beautiful human being, but something happens to our minds in those times of deep fear and deep loss. So I just wanted to share that I'm proud of you for going on, but I can get it. I can get how that would seem like the only option you have with that amount of pain.
Well, with that miracle, see, that's the thing. The miracle it was a true medical miracle. Kyle took himself off life support and was fine. His vital signs were fine. Technically, if he was off life support, he was supposed to die. They're asking me, can we take him off because we don't think he's going to make it. He takes himself off life support, and he's absolutely fine. It was a true miracle. I was fine after taking a bottle of pills, And so when we went home, I'll never forget that day, December 30th, 2011. I'll never forget what I said to God. I said, God, thank you. Thank you so much for letting me bring my son home. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know.
Right.
But I will never stop thanking you for this miracle. Never. And I never stop. I've never not kept that promise to God.
Beautiful.
So now we're talking 2.5 years later, April of 2014. He had to be rushed to the hospital again. Again, he was taken it wasn't medevac this time to Philadelphia. He was ambulance. They took him by ambulance to the same hospital in Philadelphia. And also, I have to tell you about in December 2011, the hospital was on 34th Street. So I say I've had my true miracle on 34th Street at Christmas.
Yes.
Because it was Christmas time and the hospital was on 34th Street. So I had witnessed a true miracle on 34th Street. And that's one of my favorite Christmas movies. But okay, so now we're fast forward to 2.5 years later. He's going to the hospital again. As the ambulance is taking him to the hospital because they don't let you ride in the ambulances anymore. So as the ambulance is taking him, and I'm getting in my car to ride behind the ambulance, I say to God, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know if I'm going to bring him home, if he'll be coming home with me this time. I hope so. I hope, to be bringing him home. But I cannot stop thanking you for the miracle you gave me 2.5 years ago. And so I kept that promise, and I'm still keeping that promise. So Kyle was in the hospital for 3 months. He was only on life support the last month of his life. They did a bridge. His heart had gotten so weak where he needed a transplant. He's on the transplant list, but a transplant hadn't come, but he really needed a transplant like now.
Yes.
So they did a bridge surgery that put kind of like a pump in his heart, and the surgery went well. But a week later, from technical reasons, he had an aneurysm because he was on blood thinners, and so an aneurysm burst in his brain about a week after the surgery. And so that's basically why he transitioned.
Yes.
And when that last month of his life, he was on life support, and I stayed by his side. I was reading Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift by Robert Schwartz, which tells us, so I knew when Kyle transitioned, I knew several things. I knew 3 things. I knew it was his choice, his soul's choice to go at that time. I knew he and I had made this soul plan together, and I knew he wasn't gone. I knew he was just leaving the body. That was, the heart had given out. He was really in a lot of pain, really suffering a lot the last year or so of his life. And so he was just leaving that body, getting rid of that old car, that doesn't run anymore. But he wasn't going anywhere. And I knew that. I was completely at peace when he transitioned. And because I knew that it was a plan he and I made together in spirit. I knew he wasn't gone, and I knew it was his soul's choice. Every soul decides when to come in and when to leave. There are never any accidents. I know, especially as a parent, we want to think it was too soon, but it's always from a higher perspective. And that's how I look at life now. This life, I don't look at this life through my human perspective anymore. I look at everything from my soul's perspective. And like you said in your intro, 6 months after Kyle's transition, I had the inspiration to launch Awake to Oneness Radio. And my first guest was the author of Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift, Robert Schwartz. I just was so honored to have him because I connected with Robert before Kyle transitioned. While I was in the hospital, while I was in the ICU room and Kyle was on life support, I emailed Robert and he emailed me right back. So it was,
That's pretty incredible. And
yeah.
I can't even imagine that journey. And I can't help but think from all the reading, investigating you've done for so many years, it built a foundation of your belief.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes, it did.
Yeah, which is incredible. I still, we're going on almost 300 episodes now, and there are days that I forget that I'm in this world. So, I mean, it's just, because we're human beings.
We are still human.
Yes.
This is true. And it's a moment to moment journey. I say another one of my favorite books is The Power of Now, because we have the power is in each and every now moment.
Yes.
So I still have those days or those moments where I'm like, I'm crying, and there's nothing wrong. Now I want to stress this to the listeners too. There is nothing wrong to grieve. There's nothing wrong with crying. If you can't get out of the bed, if that's where you're at the perfect place you should be.
Right.
Don't ever feel that you're doing something wrong if you're grieving and you can't stop crying and you can't go on. Don't ever feel exactly where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. Our higher self, our soul self knows what's best for us. And if we, it for everyone it's unique. We are unique divine aspects of God. And for each of us, we're going to go through our life and our journey uniquely differently. So don't ever think that everybody is supposed to be at the same place or the same level, or if someone's crying and someone's not, it's no right or wrong. It's not good or bad. It's not this or that. And that's the other thing I understand with oneness. It just is. It's not, and it's how we label it. We can label it good or bad or evil or, divine. We label things, but if we go back to the core of oneness, everything is God. So, and I use the yin and yang symbol as a visual example. When you look at that yin and yang symbol, the dark is just as equal to the light, to the white. So black and white are equal in the yin and yang, meaning and that yin and yang symbol is a symbol of God. So we all have shadow sides and we all have light sides. We want to raise our vibration because we want to be of a higher vibration because we feel good when we're at a higher vibration. Yeah, but we sometimes our vibration can go low.
Can I ask you a question, Caroline?
Sure, of course.
Just because the title of this show is "We Don't Die," do you do you have any stories of maybe signs that you've gotten from Kyle?
Oh my goodness!
That you can share.
Oh yes. Yes, definitely. Okay, so when Kyle transitioned, I knew I wanted a reading with a medium, but I was determined not to look for one. I was going to let that medium come to me.
Well, that's asking a lot. Listen to you.
Well, like I said, 6 months after Kyle's transition, I started Awake to Oneness Radio, and I didn't know what. I knew that the mission of my show was to share the truth of oneness, because I knew when mankind awoke into who we truly are, that would bring peace on this world. So that was the ultimate mission of my show. I didn't know what kind of guest I was going to actually get, but one of my guests suggested that I have Suzanne Giesemann on my show, and I had not heard of Suzanne, but I checked out her website, and I was like, yeah. I invited Suzanne Giesemann on my show May of 2016.
For anyone
and she was my guest
who doesn't know, so I hate to interrupt, she was a Navy commander, ship commander, who's now a medium, a really good medium. Okay, back to you.
Yes. So she was my guest in May 2016, and after I recorded a show with her, I said, that's who I want to have a reading with. And she had a long waiting list. And so after we recorded the show, I said, Suzanne, just put me at the bottom of that waiting list. Whenever my number comes up, we'll do it. And she said, sure. And so that was May of 2016. Now, Kyle's birthday is November 24th. And that year, Kyle's birthday was on Thanksgiving Day. Now, the week before Thanksgiving, I was thinking a lot about Kyle. I emailed Suzanne. I said, I'm just thinking a lot about Kyle. His birthday's coming up next week. It's on Thanksgiving Day. She emailed me right back. I mean, like 2 seconds, and said, we're going to do a reading on his birthday. And I'm like, wait a second. That's Thanksgiving Day. I don't want to take you away from your family on Thanksgiving Day. She said, Sanaya had told her before she got my email. Sanaya had told her she was going to do a reading for a mother on Thanksgiving Day, a reading for a mother who's lost her son on Thanksgiving Day.
And Sanaya is Suzanne's spirit guide. Let me just put that in there so people know.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes. Yeah, so she already, before, she didn't know who she was going to do the reading for, but she got that message before she got my email. Then she got my email and knew it was me. So she gifted me a reading on Kyle's birthday. Now, listen to what happened during that reading. I had never had a reading before. We were doing the readings via Zoom. And as soon as she invited Kyle in, she could hear this like whooshing, loud whooshing stuff. I heard nothing. She said, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "No, I don't hear a thing." And then she's like, "Okay, let's keep going." And then she said, "There it is again. Can you hear that?" I said, "No, I don't hear anything." Then she's like, "It must be Kyle." Then she says to Kyle, "Keep that down. It's distracting." But, well, and she said, "You'll hear it in the audio. It is so loud in the audio. You're going to say, how did I not hear it?" I did not hear it live. And in that, now when she sent me her audio, which is much better than my Zoom audio, she sent me her audio, which is a higher quality. I listened to it, and you can actually hear Kyle's voice. Kyle was trying to talk. I had never heard of EVP, didn't know what EVP was. And then she said he might be trying to do EVP. And even when she said it, I didn't catch because I had never heard of it. But the whole reading, Kyle's trying to talk to me through her computer. We hear his voice on tape. Can't make out what he's saying, but you can definitely hear his voice. And when I brought the point of the tape where you could hear his voice, and I brought that to Suzanne's attention, she said, "Holy
Cow.
SHIT."
Yeah.
Yeah. And she called Ty over to listen. She's like, "Holy, hey, Ty, come listen to this." Because that was the first time that she does hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of readings. And that was the first time that had happened in a reading. And so we have Kyle from that reading. We have Kyle's voice on tape. And we also have my dog, Coco, who is in spirit, who transitioned in 2007. Kyle was holding Coco. And just before Suzanne says he's holding a small white dog, you can hear 3 yelps from high-pitched yelps from a dog. I mean, it's so clear on the tape. So we got EVP of my dog, Coco, and Kyle in that first reading. It was
Caroline,
so amazing.
I think you'll remember this, but at the Afterlife Symposium back in September, Suzanne Wilson had a Zoom meeting. I think it was with Wendy Zamet, and they heard all this noise, and then the same thing, this really weird phenomena. Yes. But when they played it back, they slowed it down, and within that noise were words and a message. So it is brilliant to me that there's so many different ways that they're trying to get through, which this is great. And I don't think everybody's just, once we transition, that we have all the knowledge in the universe. I think it takes practice. I think it takes education. How was your reading with her besides her saying that he was holding the dog? How was the evidence that came through?
Oh my goodness. It was everything. She had the essence of him. She described him. I mean, his personality. Matter of fact, in his obituary, I wrote that he's a gentle giant because he was a big guy and he just had the biggest heart, literally, figuratively, and spiritually. He had the biggest heart because with congestive heart failure, your heart is very large. And so he just was all heart and a big guy. And so I used the terminology gentle giant in his obituary, and those were her exact words. He's a gentle giant. And just, it was just, everything was just spot on. So many, and some things he was trying to kind of tell me because it was Thanksgiving Day, and he was kind of trying to tell me what was going to happen in my day that I didn't know was going to happen, and I didn't realize it until it happened. Then I'm like, wow, that happened, and he said it was going to happen.
That's pretty great.
It is. It was great. And then so I started having readings on his birthday since then, and not with Suzanne, but my next reading was with a student of hers named Colleen. And Colleen's reading, the same thing happened with the whoosh. And that time I could hear it. Now, I could hear it live. As soon as she invited Kyle in, you heard the whooshing. And the great thing about Colleen is she's wonderful. Her son is on the other side. And her son helps her with the reading. It's so cool. Oh, that's the other thing Kyle said. Kyle said in that first reading with Suzanne, he said he's very proud of what I'm doing with the radio show. And he's my co-host.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. Because every time I'm doing a show, he's right there with me.
I'm so
Yes.
grateful that you've had the confirmation. And I would like to talk about your show because I know we
Yeah.
share a lot of the same listeners, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little different show, but the
Mm-hmm.
people that listen to me listen to you and vice versa. But to be able to share it, what's Awake to Oneness all about, and why did you feel so strong? Well, I think I can understand why you felt so strong about sharing it, but tell us a little bit about your show that you co-host with your son, Kyle.
Very true. Kyle is a big part of everything I do. For me, when I understood, like I said, with What the Bleep, when I woke up to the truth of oneness and understood that we are all spiritual beings, that at our essence, at our core, we are having a temporary human experience. And then I even take that human part, even make it deeper and say, yeah, we are having a temporary human experience, but the human experience is still part of spirit. You know, that human experience comes from spirit, and it's denser. It's a denser spirit, but it's still part of spirit. So there is no true separation. And and I believe that we all planned this in spirit. We knew it when we were in spirit, but when we come back, when we come into this life, we have amnesia, and we chose it so we could have this experience. We couldn't really have this experience if we knew it all, you know? So
Right.
we want to have this experience so we forget. We come asleep. We're sleepwalking through our lives until we wake up and understand, wait a second, we're all one. We're all connected. We're all connected with God. We can never be separated from God. We can't be separated from each other. And to me, that's the key to peace on earth. Even heaven, I think once we achieve peace on earth, we can have some kind of heaven on earth. And I do believe it is very doable, because I do believe humanity is at the tipping point where it is awakening with the internet, with shows like your show and my show, and there's hundreds of shows like ours that are awakening people up to who they truly are, which is spirit, having a temporary human experience of their own creation. We are creating this experience. And when we understand that, we don't blame anybody. We don't blame our parents. We don't blame our teachers. We don't blame the neighbor. We don't blame our husband, our wife. We stop blaming others for what we think is going wrong in our life. And we take ownership of our own life. And when you take ownership of your life, you can change your life. Like,
Ooh,
okay,
I like that.
I created this. I can change it.
What I'm reminded of, Caroline, is when we take ownership, the word I use for it is responsibility. And I know I've
Mm-hmm.
gotten into arguments with people in the past because even just recently I made the comment that I said my dad had to go the way he did, and I needed to have the arguments with the siblings that I have, because
Mm-hmm.
without that I wouldn't have experienced deep grief and I wouldn't be where I am right now. Now, I'm not saying that that's the truth, but it's
Mm-hmm.
my truth, because instead of spending the last 8 years making people wrong, I took what I
Mm-hmm.
learned and I turned it into something. Just like if you're driving down the road and you get a flat tire. Now you could be really upset with that flat tire and spend
Right.
days. Or even if you're driving down the road and you come across a tree in the middle of the road and you're stuck and
Mm-hmm.
you can't get somewhere on time. Now you can spend all kinds of time being mad. Or you could say, hey, I was responsible for taking that path. Now, is it the
Mm-hmm.
truth? Who knows? But does it, like you say, does it empower you? Does it get you back in the driver's seat of your life? And
Yes.
so I think whether it's your soul's plan, choosing to claim that as true, or
Mm-hmm.
did dad die when he did so that I could be here right now? Who really knows? We'll know someday.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, the power that you get, or that we each get, from not being blaming and really being
Mm-hmm.
of power and responsible, it's amazing, because we can change the direction if we take the responsibility for it. So I'm proud of you for sharing that, because that's a big deal.
And here's the other thing too. All truths are true. And I say that all truths are true to the person believing them.
Right.
Because remember, we are each tiny divine aspects of God creating our own reality. And we create our reality from our thoughts, our words, and our deeds, and our beliefs. And so all beliefs, all truths are beliefs, all truths are true to those who believe them. So, and we create that reality because it's confusing, but I'm going to try to simplify it. We live in a multi-dimensional universe. Everything that can happen does happen. And also I want to say, when you said about your dad, how he passed, Kyle said to me in the second reading that he would not change a thing. I mean, the way he passed and everything, wow. He wouldn't change a thing. So, and your dad would probably say the same thing. You know, like I said, they choose. It's a soul, not from their human perspective, but from their soul, from their higher self perspective. Their higher self, no one leaves too soon or too early. It's always perfect divine timing. But everything that can happen does happen in a different dimension. And I know that sounds crazy, but we can experience anything we want if we're at that vibrational dimension. It's all vibration. And so what happens, like I said, is, and we can look at it negatively or we can look at it positive. Everything that happens, we can, if we want, we can look at the positive good from everything that happens. And I know that sounds crazy, especially from a mom whose son transitioned.
Right.
But I can say that, and I understand that experience I went through with Kyle was for a purpose, so I can share it with others and other parents, especially. A lot of my listeners are parents with children on the other side, and how would I be able to reach them if I didn't have that same experience? You understand? They wouldn't
exactly.
even hear.
Exactly. I could not talk about grief had I not been through it.
Right.
Yeah. Can you speak about parents? I know you're an affiliate leader for Helping Parents Heal. Could you talk a little bit about what Helping Parents Heal is? Because there's so many people that don't know that it's a wonderful, wonderful resource. HelpingParentsHeal.org is the main website.
Yes. And the person who brought me, got my attention into Helping Parents Heal was Suzanne Geisman. It all goes back to Suzanne. She told me about this wonderful organization, and I said, I got to check them out. And I checked them out, and I saw they were having their first conference coming up, and I said, I've got to go to the conference. And I did several shows with the co-founder, and the co-founders together, and then I did a show before the conference and then after the conference. But basically, they are an organization, and I love this organization because they want to, they focus on that your child is not gone, that your child is still here, and it's okay to share signs. So I've been to 2 Helping Parents Heal meetings in person. I'm still organizing my group here in the Poconos, but I went to 2 meetings in New York, and we had a great time because we were all sharing signs from our kids. You know, and a big rainbow took place outside the window. We're in this high-rise in New York City, and we look out at the clouds, and there's this rainbow. We know all of our kids are there. You know, that rainbow was a sign from our kids, letting our kids know they're still with us. So it's not a sad place. It's not, we don't leave the meeting sad and crying that our kids are on the other side. We share signs that we know our kids are still with us. And not all grief groups are like that.
Yes, that's
So that,
correct. And a lot of
yeah.
times, I know even just talking about afterlife, there's many of us
Hmm.
who don't have anybody in our day-to-day lives that we share this part of ourselves with. And
Right.
there are a lot of traditional grief groups that, yes, they really do make a difference, but there's this extra layer of being able to share this side that we do believe that our child's gone on, or even if we don't believe, there's plenty of people
Right.
around that help us with, we can be open about this. And
Yes.
I can't share helpingparentsheal.org, and they have online Facebook groups. They have online meetings, free.
Hmm.
If people want to make a little small donation, it's always welcome. But they have had some of the best speakers, and it's all
Yes.
online. So even if you're a parent listening to this in the privacy of your home, I
Yes.
encourage you to
Yes.
go to helpingparentsheal.org and
Yes.
especially join the Facebook group, because they're
Yes.
givers. Everybody in the community is someone who has a child in the spirit world, and that they're very understanding and compassionate. So kudos to
My
you for
best
that.
friends.
They
Yes, my
are.
best friends have come from Helping Parents Heal.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it helps all
Yes.
of us to be part of, whether it's an organization or listening to this
Right.
show or being part of a Facebook group, whatever that is, that we're not in this alone. It can be very
Yes.
easy, even though there's 7 billion people on planet Earth with us, to think we're
Yes.
alone with our own things, and
Yes.
we're not. Can I ask you, Caroline, who some of your
Sure.
favorite guests have been? Because I know you've had some big, famous people on your show.
Yes. Oh, well, so my favorite, of course, Suzanne Geisman.
Of course.
She's been on my show several times. Suzanne Geisman, Reverend Michael Beckwith. I'm not sure if you're
Yeah,
familiar
he
with
was
him,
in the movie
but
The Secret.
yes, he was
Yes, he
from The
was.
Secret. Yes, yes. I had him on the show. Robert Schwartz, of course, and he's been on my show a couple of times.
Yeah.
Robert Schwartz is the author of
Your
Your
Soul's
Soul's
Plan.
Plan and Your Soul's Gift. He also has a third book out too. Let's see. Oh my goodness. I've had some wonderful scientists on my show. Dr. Bruce Lipton.
No,
who is a
sir.
biologist.
I'm jealous.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you can make that introduction. He's brilliant.
Yes. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Dean Radin, who was in What the Bleed.
Oh my
Dean
goodness.
Radin. Yes, I had Dean Radin. Oh, the one of the founders of Heart Math was on the show.
I don't know what that is.
Howard.
I don't know what that is.
Oh goodness! Okay? Howard Martin was on the show. He's the co-founder of Heart Math. Heart Math has scientifically proven that our heart is much more intelligent than our brain.
Wow.
I mean, significantly more intelligent. Our heart is much more intelligent than our brain, and Heart Math has proven it scientifically.
Pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah. And I've had Dr. Larry Dawsey, who wrote the book One Mind.
You know what's funny is I very rarely get jealous. And in my core, I'm thinking, okay, Sandra, this is not about you. But here's the thing. Now I'm going to sit in the seat of responsible. How grateful am I that I've now met you, that now listeners of this show can go hear those extraordinary interviews with those people. Because it's really great, because there's always that question about science and the afterlife. And those are the people that I own their books, that I've written to their media people, and they might say my show is not big enough or they're too busy. So I'm really thrilled that I get to interview you, the interviewer, and be able to share. So I'm putting the jealousy aside. Let me just ask you, awaketoonenessradio.org is your site. Can people access all the interviews there, or do you have them all on YouTube? Like, what's the best way?
I have them everywhere.
Oh.
I have them on. They're on. All of them are on Blog Talk Radio.
Okay.
All of them are on iTunes, and all of them are on YouTube.
Oh, I'm proud of you. So I'm a big YouTube girl myself. If I were to go there, I would type in Awake, the number 2, Oneness Radio, and that would pop up.
Right
okay, because some of those names that you mentioned, and I'm sure there's other people, and we complement each other, because who wants to hear the same interviews all over again? So I'm grateful that we have some varied guests. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
proud of you.
And
Good girl.
I try to have shows from all walks of life. I have the scientists, I have medical
Mm-hmm.
doctors, I've had spiritual people, I've had musicians, I've had comedians, I've had artists. Paint this the girl Akiana, and I wish I could pronounce. As a matter of fact, that show is
Yes.
gonna
You interviewed her?
Akiana. Yes, yes, I had Akiana on my show. So she's a great child
Caroline.
prodigy artist. So, because what I want to show is that
I
the
am so
oneness,
proud of you. I'm just sitting here.
yeah,
I'm
uh,
just in awe. And now for our listener, if you don't know who these people are, they're
yes,
they're just super inspirational. This Akiana
yes,
was a girl
yes,
from a very young age who's like a child prodigy artist.
yes,
She
yes,
never grew up with religion, and she draws
right.
pictures of Jesus and the afterlife with such detail. And her parents were like, she was never told about this. And she's brilliant, and her
Yes,
paintings are unbelievable. Wow,
yes.
you just gave me just such a boost of inspiration right now. And I've got some work to do checking out your
Oh no,
show
but
and hearing some of these.
you're doing
Well,
amazing.
yes, we
It's
complement each
really
other.
yes, yes. We complement each other, and that's what life is all about. Because we're all unique. We're all unique aspects of the divine. That is my definition of who we are, and we're supposed to be different. We're
Yes.
supposed to, and that difference is unity within diversity. Meaning, we can't be clones of each other. We don't want to be clones of each other. And even if we don't agree on something, like if a Buddhist doesn't agree with a Muslim, doesn't mean a Buddhist and a Muslim can't love each other and
Right.
respect each other.
Right.
It's all because I don't claim to be any one particular religion, because I believe in oneness, and oneness
Yes.
to me is unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, and unconditional acceptance of another person. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. And I know too, by the title of this show, it really is
Mm-hmm.
focusing on evidence of the afterlife, with some living
Yes.
a powerful life, whereas you take myself and my listeners to the next
Mm-hmm.
phase about awakening, and you get so many more broad stories about what the potential is, the human potential in life. And I think it's great to believe in the afterlife, but once we do, well, then we have a
Right.
huge responsibility of who are we and what do we choose our life to be for. And so I think
Right.
where you and also Roberta Grimes, who has the Seek Reality program, that everything's
Mm-hmm.
complemented to really help all of us enrich our lives to the most that it can be, give us resources to be inspired. And I tell you what, sometimes you hear, I can't remember the guy's name who first ran the 4-minute mile in a marathon, but before, Roger Bannister's his name, before he
Okay.
did that, the world said there's no way somebody can run a mile in 4 minutes. It's impossible. And once he did that, then suddenly,
Yes.
hundreds of thousands of people have been able to do it. So once you hear
Yes.
stories on Awake to Oneness Radio, and you hear some of these things that people are doing, I think it sparks something in our soul. This like, I could do
Yes.
that too, or do something different. But it
Mm-hmm.
really opens up to what's possible in each one of our lives. And it is my wish for all of us, because I know the day's going to come where we close our eyes here on planet
Mm-hmm.
Earth and take our
Yes.
last human breath, and then we open them in the
Right.
afterlife and take whatever kind of
Mm-hmm.
breath we take there. But to look back on our life and really know that we played full out and we really made
Right.
the most of it. And you, my friend, have created that kind of conversation that, like I said in the beginning, you have global listeners really empowering people, and you could have never done that without being on your search. And having Kyle as your
Right.
co-host is such a
Yes.
beautiful thing. So
Yes.
a big
So true.
thank you to you, Caroline.
Thank you. Thank you. Because what you're doing is wonderful, because you know what? The evidence, there's so much overwhelming evidence that we don't die. There's no such thing as death. And that should be a no-brainer to everybody on the planet by now.
Well, it will be, because we're all on our
Yes.
journeys, and it took me 20 years to get to where I am. And if I can
Mm-hmm.
help people through this show, and also, I think I told you this via email, but I'm going to do my first live events that people can come for a weekend and get this
Yes, I'm going to be there.
transformational knowledge. You come into both of them?
Yes, well, I'm definitely coming to Boston.
All right.
I'm not sure about Orlando, but I'm definitely going to be in Boston.
Okay, so for the listener who doesn't
Yes.
know what we're talking about right now,
Yes.
February 22nd through 24th, Boston, Massachusetts. You can go to wedon'tdieboston.com to find out more. It's myself and a bunch of people talking about the afterlife and living life, and it'd be very powerful. And then also a little bit warmer, end of March 2019, wedon'tdieorlando.com. And I tell you, I will give everything I've got, as will the other speakers, that no matter where you are on the spectrum of believing in the afterlife or hoping that it's real, that you walk out the door having witnessed some of the most miraculous things that you know in your heart, that you go on, your loved ones are still around, and that your life matters. And and for those that can't make it, certainly understand. But I have a fellow who is filming both events, and we're going to turn it into an online program that'll probably happen this summer to get to the most amount of people. Caroline, our time is coming to an end. Do you have any closing words before we say our
I am just
goodbye?
so thankful. I mean, I'm so thankful. It's just wonderful to have met you, and I'll be seeing you in Boston. I'm actually driving to Boston with another HPH, Helping Parents Heal Mom. We're going together. We're driving together to Boston, and I can't wait to see you next month.
Oh, you're
Awesome.
sweet. You're sweet.
Yeah.
And I will, for who's sitting at home or in your car or out for a walk, who's listening right now, if you scroll to the description of this episode, I've got a few things. I've got the connection to Caroline's Awake to Oneness show, and then also a link to Helping Parents Heal, and then also a link to the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? Because sometimes it takes watching something like that to really get that we are not who we think we are. There's so much more than just this, I don't want to say bag of bones, but skin and bones that we are. There's so much more. And sometimes it takes watching something like that. So I think you'd really enjoy it. Caroline, thank you again for being our guest here today.
Thank you.
I
am
loved
so
it.
honored.
I love it. And for our listener, thank you for taking the time to be here also. As in every episode, it is my wish, my dream, and my goal to let you know that you are a soul having a human experience, as am I, as Caroline is too. And our lives matter. There's a much bigger picture. I love this quote that our life here is but a thread in the fabric of our soul. We are so much more than we can even imagine ourselves to be. The home base for this site is where you can find all the past episodes. We are now on number 288. Amazing. You can go to wedon'tdieradio.com. I've got some free gifts there as well, including my How to Survive Grief audio, because I do know, as does Caroline, just how painful grief can be. And there's a few tools to help understand the grieving process and some things to help lessen the pain. So in closing, my name is Sandra Champlain, and I'm so happy I get to have these conversations on We Don't Die Radio. And I do believe that life is an education for the soul, and that your life here on earth is important. Again, you can go visit Caroline's radio show on iTunes, YouTube, or simply at her website, awake2onenessradio.org. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.